Let's let's go. Yeah, get that chug in there.
All right.
Send it, send it, send it.
Okay. Part two.
Yes.
We're already getting lambasted in the comments. And I've jumped around too, and I've also jumped in on some other people's things. But because we spent the part one just doing nothing but complaining, right, about all of this.
Hmm.
And of course, the top comment that everybody says is, oh, Notre Dame join a conference. Just join a conference. Just join a conference. Listen, number one, this isn't just about Notre Dame. I even said it. Let's take Notre Dame out of this because Vandy got screwed and BYU got screwed and Texas got screwed and Alabama and then Miami was sitting there in a conference and they didn't play and moved up two spots inexplicably, right?
Right.
Like because the committee said that head to head mattered but it only mattered after the season was over. It didn't matter when the first rankings came out, right? Like I mean, this is all just what I want to do is not just complain about it because we can complain about it and we can argue
All
over and
yeah, we
over
can complain all day
again
long.
because people have it like look at people are just in their head. They're like Notre Dame's not in a conference, so that's dumb and we're just going to say over and over and over again, Notre Dame just join a conference, just join a conference. That's going to solve all the problems. Well, how is Notre Dame joining a conference going to fix the issue with BYU being left out? How is Notre Dame joining a conference going to fix the issue with Vanderbilt being left out? How is Notre Dame joining a conference going to fix the issue that you took a 3-loss Alabama team, but you didn't take a 3-loss Texas team? How is Notre Dame joining a conference going to change the fact that Alabama got boat raced by Florida State week one, but then, a 3-loss, a 3-point loss in week one is what's going to keep you out of the playoff. But when you lose by 2 scores in week one to a team that's 5-7, that doesn't. So again, the whole just join a conference thing. Listen, it's been debunked over and over and over and over and over again. And the fact that people keep saying it just shows that they don't listen, they're not paying attention, and they don't care.
Right.
Bottom line, like
Yeah.
we've said all we can say. Like I can't help you anymore. Like
It's
you're just
insanity.
lost.
It's
You're just
insanity.
lost at that point if you keep saying it. But listen, so uh, here's our thing on the bar banter, right? We don't want to just complain because everybody can complain, right? We want to come up with solutions. So in part two, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about solutions that are going to fix college football and not just this whole playoff situation that's ruined everything. Because we said when the BCS was, well, first of all, we said when it was the polls, oh, how can you have a split national champion? Why are you letting the writers and the coaches decide who the national champion is? Decided on the field. Okay, well, we went to the BCS. We used a computer system to rank the 2 best teams, whatever, put them on the field, let them play, and then that's your national championship. People didn't like that because, well, we're leaving out 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. All right, let's have a 4-team playoff. Oh, well, now, wait a minute. Now we're losing, now we need 5 and 6. They should have a shot. So let's 12. And now we're bringing in JMU and Tulane, who, by the way, both of their coaches have been hired by somebody else and everything else and all this other stuff. And now we're still having arguments about this and stuff like that. So here's what we're going to do we're going to fix it because these conferences have gotten out of control. Right now, you have a situation to where you have the ACC has 17 teams. So not all teams in the conference play the same amount of conference games because you can't. It's an odd
Right.
number,
Hmm.
right? So now and then you have the Big 12 that has 16 teams. You have the Big 10 that has 18 teams, and then you have the SEC that has 16 teams. Okay? Well, what happens when you have that many teams, right, is you have the games that you play in your conference, but even if you play 9 games in conference, there's not like in the Big 10, you play 9 games in conference, there's 9 teams you're not playing, right?
Right.
So let's look at Indiana, who's the number one team and clearly the number one team. And, you know, They won the Big Ten championship. Woo, that matters. Um, and so let's look at what they didn't in their conference, the tough conference. They didn't play Michigan, Ohio State, or USC.
Uh-uh.
So and outside of Indiana, those are they played Oregon and they beat Oregon. Okay, one of the four other teams that were ranked in the Big Ten, they won. Now so then the rest of it they played the bottom feeders. Okay, and then let's look at their non-conference schedule. They had 3 games to schedule in the non-conference. They played Kennesaw State, the
Powerhouse.
Fighting Kennesaws.
Shout out
They
Brown
played
Breaker.
they played Old Dominion, and I'm not sure if that's a college or if it's the country band.
I think it's the
Shout out
band.
Trevor Rosen, went to high school with you.
Yeah,
Um, and then they played Indiana State. I didn't was Larry Bird on that team? I
I
don't
think
know.
so.
I don't know. But this is what we run into, right? And so here's what we're gonna do. We can't have this. So we're gonna fix the way that this goes. The conferences are stupid.
Hmm.
We talked about all the Oregons, the Washingtons, and USC's and UCLA's that are now in the Big Ten. We talk about California and Stanford that's in the ACC. We talk about the fact that everything changes every single year. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this. Here's a map of the entire United States. Now, there's 3 different ways that we can do this. Okay. But we're going to have 4 divisions. Let's call them divisions. We're not going to call them conferences. If you want to call them conferences to make you feel better, give you a little whoo-hoo, then fine. Absolute. Call them conferences all you want, but there's going to be 4. And there's 3 different ways that you can do it. Number 1, you could keep what you have in, tradition. Let's call them the Big Ten and the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12 or whatever. Fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to put 16 in each. That means that the Big Ten, so Rutgers, you're FCS. Like, look,
Yeah.
Rutgers,
I
what are
mean,
you
yeah.
going to do? Right? Like, you know what I mean? So you're going to have 16 in each. Or what you can do is you could just split it down the middle and split it latitude, and then you've got your 4 quadrants. Okay? You could do that and have 16 teams in each that way. Or if you say, well, everything in the country is heavily loaded to the East Coast, which, it is. So we could say, okay, well, let's splice it in 4s up and down. The East Coast, the Midwest, the Mountain, and the West, and give the West a bigger portion of the country than the East has, just to kind of make it, whatever. And then you've got your 16 teams that way. However you want to do it. 16 teams in each one of the 4 divisions or conferences. So now what you do is you have 10 games a year that you have to play within your division. Okay. So there's 6
Mhm.
that you're not playing, but that's better than half, right?
Right.
You're playing 10 out of the 16 as opposed to 9 out of the 18,
Right.
right? So you do that. So you're playing 10 out of the 16. Okay. You got 2 games left over that you can bring up the FCS teams, all the teams that are not in these 4 quadrants, the FCS teams. Because again, Michigan likes to play Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan, and it's good for those schools. It's good to help the in-state schools, the smaller schools and stuff like that. They get a big payday when they come in. I get it. That's great. That's fine. So you can get 2 of those.
Hmm.
Pull them up from the FCS and let them play. Okay. And you do that. And then you got your 10 within your division. Now, what happens at the end of the year? All our 12 games are over. We take from the NFL what the NFL does. And the NFL has a very, very by the book, black and white, who wins the division, who makes the playoff, who doesn't, and everything else by tiebreakers, by metrics, by everything else. There's no human involvement, whatever. We use that system that the NFL has, and we get the top 4 teams in each quadrant, in each division. One plays four, two plays three. Boom. Now, after that, you end up with 8 teams left. Okay. So you got your 8 teams left. And then you go into a national tournament and you use the BCS method, which was all computer generated. Again, no human involvement, no this team, that team, whatever, and rank them 1 through 8. And then one plays 8, two plays 7, three plays 6, and 4 plays 5. And then you get your brackets and you go to 4 teams, the championship game, and then you have your championship. Nobody has any argument about anything. Nobody's screaming about just join a conference, your conference championship. No. What we're doing is we're taking the teams that matter. We're getting the JMUs. We're getting the Tulanes out of there. We're putting everybody in. You're playing the teams that you should be playing against during the regular season. It matters. It's ranked by the NFL. It's evaluated the same way the NFL does their playoff system. Nobody seems to complain. Yeah, you could complain that there's a 12-5 wild card team that doesn't get a home game, and there's a 9 and 8 division champion that gets a home game or whatever. But we know who wins. We know
Mhm.
who's in. There's no dispute as to who's in and who's not. Okay, and then this does it that way. And then you get into the situation to where it's like, okay, well, our division is this and our division is that, and everything else, and the Big Ten's tougher than the SEC and all that. No, now we're 1 through 8 and we rank them 1 through 8. And we do it by the computer. Computers are smart enough to be able to
Mhm.
figure it out. The data points that you put in, boom, there's no argument about it. And
Yep.
then you go and then you play and then it's figured out on the field. That's it. There's no more conference. Oh, join a conference, do this or whatever. There's no more championship games that don't mean anything. There's no more argument about who's where and who's doing what. Everybody has the same type of schedule, and that's how you do it. What say you?
Yeah, I think it's perfect because, like you said, it's all computer generated, right? So we don't have humans making decisions because when humans make decisions, other humans don't agree. And that's just what it is because every decision that a human makes is opinionated, it's emotional, it's whatever. Whereas a computer doesn't give a shit. A computer's going to tell you what it is. A computer's going to give you, okay, point differential, record, things like that. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to line it up. You can't argue with the computer. And you're right. I couldn't tell you the last time there's been an outrage over seedings and placement of the NFL playoffs. People might be like you said, well, how is a 7-9 Bucks the 4 seed when a 13-3 thing, and it's like, well, that's because their division played better that year and whatever, and it goes by a divisional thing. So like that's, but even then, people aren't complaining about that
Right.
because it's been that way for so long.
They say it
Also,
sucks, but you just deal with it because that's the way that it is,
that's the
right?
way that it is, right? So like everybody, I don't have a single problem with the NFL playoffs, and I really haven't met anybody that also has a problem with the NFL playoffs. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, and it also eliminates having situations where teams, just because their record is identical to another team's, it's not meshing them just because of those two numbers. It's actually taking into account the type of quality of play and the teams that they play, right? So, like, we teased it a little bit in the last video, and you mentioned it here. Like, for example, if instead of Tulane and James Madison being in this playoff with SEC teams and Big Ten teams and going to get mollywopped by Oregon in the first round, James Madison Tulane could be a 1 and 2 seed in their next quadrant below,
Right.
and that's a whole, I mean, that's a good thing, right? And because it is so, like, right, you might be saying, well, that's just extra divisions, that's a lot more, da 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 da. Well, yeah,
The
it's
high
college
school
football,
playoffs.
right? It's the high school playoffs do it. And when you have a level like college and high school, there are going, I mean, yeah, the NFL, you have 32 teams,
You're
right?
dealing with a hundred and some teams in
E-
college.
exactly. So you have to do it this way. You have to, because not only that, but then, so it comes to the Division One, the big guys, the big guns. It's their playoff. Well, that's going to take place, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So here's what you do: you take that Division Two of those JMU, Tulane, Western Michigans, your Macs, your Sun Belts, your Atlantics. You take those, have those games play on Monday, Tuesday, and then you've got
Or
football throughout the whole
or
thing.
you have those games at noon and at 3 o'clock, and you
Yeah.
have the other games at 7 and 9 o'clock. Like, I mean, look, and we talked about this because MAC football is awesome,
Hmm.
but you never see any of these MAC teams, and they go into and then they end up with one of these ridiculous bowl games, and it's like, and here's the other thing about the bowl games, right? Like, so everybody's squawking about Notre Dame opted out of the bowl game and everything like that. Well, they're one of like 12 teams that have opted out. Okay, but nobody wants to talk about the other teams that opted out. Also, if and the reason why Notre Dame opted out was because it was a team decision,
Hmm.
because you have Jeremiah Love and Jadavian Price and these other guys that are going to be going to the NFL, and they're not going to play in a bowl game unless it's a playoff. And the team said, "Look, we battled with these guys all year long. We're not gonna play a game without them.
Hmm.
So we're not going to do it." And you see in other teams doing the same thing. And even if the teams that do play the games, half their starters are sitting
Right.
because they're making the executive decision that I don't want to get hurt in an exhibition game because I'm going to the NFL. Okay?
Right.
Because the Bulls don't matter outside the playoff, because guess what? ESPN has drilled in our heads for years and years and years. It's playoff or bust.
Right.
So now ESPN can't get mad because they're losing money that these teams don't want to play when you created that environment. We talk about this all the time, and this is what ESPN does, right? Like, they build something up and then they tear it down, and then they get mad, and it's
Hmm.
stupid. And so I like the fact that, look, you could have a Division 2, and you could have these MAC teams, these Mountain West teams, these American Conference teams playing in meaningful games at the end of the year, because
Hmm.
that's good football. And I'm
Yeah.
biased because I live in the Midwest, so I've been around the MAC and I've been to MAC championship games and everything else. The atmosphere is great. These look, everybody loves MACtion, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
these Tuesday night games in the middle of winter when it's freezing cold and everything else, and these guys are, give them something to play for. And it
Hmm.
does that with another division and everything else and those kinds of things. So I like that aspect of it too, because it creates another level of competitive football that we get to see, that, and then the other part of it too is it allows for these guys in these conferences and these schools to shine, to then be able to transfer to the big time and get even more noticed, which brings me to my next point. The transfer portal has to change.
Absolutely.
It absolutely has to change.
We talked about that in our first ever podcast episode before we were Bar Banter, before we switched. Our first ever podcast episode, that was the first thing we ever talked about. And like, we'll revisit some of those same topics, but basically, like, I'll just say this before you dive deep. It went from law and order to martial law overnight. There was no gradual, there was no in between, there was no, I mean, it was all or nothing is the way that and it went from nothing to everything. And there was no restrictions, there was no thought process, which I guess trial and error, right? You need to just kind of let these things play out to know how to do it right. But I think it's about time that we've realized that it's only been, allowed for what, 2, 3 years now, but
And it's chaos.
and it's chaos in that short amount of time. So what's your solution there?
You got guys like Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, right? This is when you count junior college and you count, everything else, like, this is his fourth team.
Yeah.
You got guys like Diego Pavia, right? Like, this is his third or fourth team. Like, you got guys like Spencer Rattler that bounced around and everything else. Dylan Gabriel, UCF to Oklahoma to Oregon and things like this or whatever. You got all this stuff. Okay. So here's how you handle the transfer portal. On National Signing Day, when you sign a contract for a number of years. If a team is recruiting you and you tell that team, I only want to sign a 1 year contract, then that team has the decision to say, do I want to pursue somebody who's only going to be with me for a year? Or do I want to pursue somebody who's willing to sign a 3 year contract that I know I'm going to have for 3 years? Right? So you sign a contract for X number of years and then you fulfill those years. So if you sign a 3 year contract with a team, let's say that I sign with Arizona State, I'm on Arizona State's team for 3 years. Now that 3 years is over, I can make the decision to go to the coaching staff and say, you know what, I enjoyed my time here and I want to stay for a fourth year.
Hmm.
Or I can say, I'm going to go elsewhere for my one more year left.
You have to treat it like the NFL. You have to give them
Exactly.
contract. They have to sign contracts. Yeah.
You sign the contracts. Now let's now and that gives one it puts credibility back on the players and it puts credibility back with the university. It's about commitment. It's about this and everything else. And you know what you get out of a guy. Okay. So that's that. It changes the whole like the Nico Iamaleava thing and all that other kind of stuff like that. Like we're dealing with you're in or you're out.
Right.
Because here's the other part. Let's talk about like Kenny Minchie from Notre Dame just announced that he's going into the transfer portal because he realized now CJ Carr is the guy. I competed for that job. I lost it. CJ Carr is the guy. I'm gone. Tom Brady said that happened to me 3 times when I was at Michigan. And I had to compete each and every single time just to get on the field. And
Yeah.
that made me who I am today. You know what I mean? So I think that like if Minchie had signed a 3 year deal with Notre Dame, now he's like, okay, I'm gonna work my ass off this offseason because I barely lost the job to CJ Carr the first year. He had a good year, but I still think I can beat him out in year two. And we're gonna come in and I'm gonna show it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas now it's like I lost the job, I'm gone. I'm going to another
Yeah.
school. I lost that job, I'm going to another school. I lost that job. No, let's put some accountability back into this. Let's put some to where we're able to be accountable and everything else and that fixes the transfer portal.
Yeah.
What say you on that?
Yeah, no, I agree because again, it's kind of like a similar situation. Like imagine if this type of stuff was happening in the NFL, right? Because and people are going to say, "Well, of course, it's different. It's the NFL." But no, because
It's
everything
not different
transfers.
anymore.
Everything transfers, right? So like in the NFL, right? Yes, you do get your attention your, every now and again you do get your crybabies like, "Oh, they're not throwing me the ball. I'm leaving." Right? But
Mhm.
the process for them to leave is not nearly as easy as it is for them to do the same in college, right? So, if, for example, like DK Metcalf was very unhappy in Seattle. He's like, I want out. Micah Parsons, not happy. I want out. There's a whole lot that has to go into those type of decisions. And it's not very easy for anybody to just pull the plug on that and be like, okay, bye. Like, there's a lot of moving parts that need to happen, which is why you see people complain or whatever. But most of the time, right? Like, Justin Jefferson was one of the guys that said it best too. Yes, he was like, okay, we're losing, give me the ball. He's like, but here's the thing. If we're winning and I'm not getting the ball, guess what? We're winning. So
Right.
we're good, right? Now, if we're losing, yeah, I mean, come on, maybe let's try something here. Give me the ball. But if it's working and you're winning, let's keep doing what we're doing to win this game. In college, while I lost a starting job, we won a national championship, but I'm going to transfer because I didn't get to do it. You can't. It doesn't work that way. And you're teaching those younger guys now that they think that they're going to go to the NFL and get drafted, that they can keep that same attitude and just give up and jump ship when things get tough, which they're not going to be able to do in the NFL, and it's going to ruin a lot of guys' career early. So you
Right. And
implement that sort of discipline and accountability at, because think about it, the youth shapes the future, right? So you implement that to the youth, they're going to be able to carry those tendencies to the NFL, and ladder, it'll go down the ladder for generations to come. Hey, well, things are tough. We can't just give up and jump ship and go to another school. You got to either grind it out and get better, or there's going to be some consequences to, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just the way it is. This is how the real world works.
and I mean, and again, I look, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that's what Tom Brady said.
Mm-hmm.
He would have never been, he's out of his own words, he would have never been what he was in the NFL. He probably would have never got out of the first training camp after being drafted in the 6th round had it not been for him learning how to fight by losing his job 3 different times at Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If he would have been able to just quit and go to, like, you know what I mean? And that's the thing too. It's like, okay, well, and I get it. Fine. If you want to, if you get into a situation like that and you say, you know what, I want to leave. I want to go to an FCS team. I want to have some fun or whatever. My goal isn't to be in the NFL. I just want to have a good college experience. Maybe I want to get into coaching and stuff like that or whatever. Fine. That's fine. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all your prerogative, but honor the commitment that you make. If you sign a 2-year deal, you stay for 2 years. If you sign a 3-year deal, you stay for three. If team is willing to let you sign a 1-year deal, then you got all the options open to you. But you might limit your possibilities at the onset if you only say, I'm only going to go to you for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many teams are going to commit to you and commit the resources to you if you've already told them at the onset, I'm only giving you 1 year.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it puts some accountability. It puts honoring commitments back on the table and everything else and all those kinds of things. Now, talking about honoring commitments and all that other kind of stuff, what I want to go into is um, we kind of went a little bit out of order, but it just kind of flowed this way. Anything else? Talk about honoring commitments and all that other kind of stuff. About coaches leaving too, because we talk
Yes.
about
Yeah.
players leaving, and now there's just coaches leaving. I mean, we talk about Lane Kiffin; he's done it 3 or 4 different times and stuff like that. You put the rug gets pulled out from under you. You got these recruits that are like now decommitting and everything else. Well, I wanted to go play for you, and now you're going somewhere else and all that other kind of stuff. All right, well, let's do this then. Let's stop this from happening right at the end of the 12-game season before the conference championship
Mm-hmm.
games, and you ruin a team. Like we said, JMU and Tulane, these two guys, look, I don't blame them because these guys are going to get better jobs, right? Like, this is what you
Of
do and all that
course.
other kind of stuff. You got teams like Penn State that fired, hey, listen, we had to make a change and all these other kind of stuff. Like, I get it. Now you want to get your best guy in and all that kind of stuff. So I understand all of that. But let's finish the season. Let's finish the championship. Let's get through the playoffs before we start pulling guys. Because now you got Lane Kiffin, who could have taken Ole Miss to a championship.
He could have.
You got, these two guys that we talked about that, with JMU and Tulane, that in the back of their minds, they're trying to build staffs and recruit and everything else while they're also trying to take two teams that don't even belong in a playoff to a
Mm-hmm.
to a playoff,
Yeah.
right? You got guys, even coordinators and stuff like that. You got like we talked about Brian
Yeah.
Hartline and stuff.
At
He's
OSU.
he's
And
and
now
now
they're,
it's being said
yeah.
that he's not going to be with the team anymore because we saw what that's like, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't do two things. And
Right.
listen, nothing against Brian Hartline. God bless him and everything
Mm-hmm.
else. Like, you did a great job. You were a coordinator. You got your shot at being a head coach. Take it all you want.
Of
My
course.
problem is that the timing of the bullshit that happens.
Mm-hmm.
This all
And
should be happening after the season's over, not now.
and Ryan Day actually said it best. He was like, congrats to Brian, we love him, and this isn't his fault, it's everybody else's. And he
Yeah,
basically was saying without saying, so he didn't get in trouble, but he was saying without saying that the system is ass backwards. And when he said
it
it's
is.
everybody else's fault, that's what he was implying is the fact that people are trying to move parts while other things are still going on, right? And listen, you can call me OSU homer and bias and whatever, but it's the truth, right? It is what it is. Ryan Day tried to say it, and yes, love Hartline. He did a fantastic job for us. He brought in all those receivers that we know and love and recognize as wide receiver U, but at the end of the day, his head was on USF, not Indiana, and that's why
You
we put
can't
up
do
10
two
points.
things at once.
And again, still not taking anything away from Indiana's defense, but I will tell you this right now. And again, you can call me a homer, you can say whatever you want to say. Indiana's defense is good, but they are not hold Ohio State offense to 10 points good. They're just not.
Yeah, and look, and yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, look, we're not it's not about making it look again. Indiana won the game and they did a great job and they're a great team and everything else. And like we bashed their schedule and their schedule is what it is, right? Like, but at the end of the day, they won that game and they played well and they're a great team and all that other kind of stuff and they have a shot at winning it all. And but these things need to be talked about and
Mm-hmm.
these things need to be brought up and these things don't make sense and this is about making sense with them. So again, this is what we talked about. Like, so we sat and we had a part one where all we did was rant and complain and everything else and say
Yep.
the system's broken, system's broken, system's broken. Well, here we are with solutions, and the
Right.
and the reason why coaches get hired when they do now is because of when National Signing Day is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to push that back. And I know people sit there and say, well, we have it where it is because we want to bring these kids in early. If they can graduate high school early. How many of these kids are graduating high school early
Right.
enough to
And
be able to take college class? Like, I get it. Like, yeah, a lot of these high schools allow kids to take college credit courses and stuff like that and all that stuff, other
I
kind of
mean, my
stuff.
high school did it.
But what I'm saying is, you're talking about a few weeks.
Right.
Like the is really the middle of December as opposed to the middle of January going to really
A
like
month tops. It's a month tops.
and you talk about, well, the kids got to enroll and all this other kind of stuff. Listen, it stopped being about the classes and stuff like that a long time ago.
Mm.
Okay. You can make an exception to get a kid enroll or at least get him at the university, get him into to being, online classes now. Like we like you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like you can do it. You can do it now to where you can push it back a month and wait till the season's over before all this stuff starts happening and
Mm-hmm.
get the kid in and start getting them in conditioned and training and lifting weights and all that other kind of stuff. Because you know what? Listen, you're all these schools are opting out of the spring game anyway, so you don't have to get the kid ready for the spring game. You have to
Right.
get them ready for week 1. And guess what? Week 1 and 2 under our new system is essentially preseason because you're playing those FCS teams that you're bringing up, right? For
Yeah.
week 1 and 2, and then you got your 10-game season of the battle.
Right.
And you have the ability to do that. So again, the Arch Manning that had to play Ohio State at Ohio State
Mm-hmm.
week 1 and everything else, the CJ Carr that had to play at Miami and then Texas A&M at home, the Julian Sayin who had to play Texas week 1. Now those guys that are your freshmen that you're bringing in and that you're putting into the new situation get to ease into it with these FCS games in week 1 and week 2, and then you roll into your schedule of the 10 games and stuff like
Yeah.
that with the quadrants and stuff. So see how this all works. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
come on. Let's be smart about it. The last thing we want to be smart about, the piece number 4 that we want to be smart about is
With a special guest appearance, by the way,
yeah,
also.
and this is where she's really getting involved in it is the NIL money.
Yeah.
Like we need to get a grasp on it. And we talked about this again, we episode 1 and all this other kind of stuff like that. It's like let's run it like a business, let's be smart about it and all
Yep.
this other kind of stuff. Every sport other than baseball, and actually we're getting into a situation right now to where the new CBA is going to be argued about a salary cap.
Yeah.
So why, if we're going to run everything else like a business, why not run this like it and then put a salary cap on it? Each school is capped how much money the school themselves can give to players. Okay. So Michigan can't run out and say, hey, Bryce Underwood, I know you signed at LSU, but we want you to come home and we're going
Right.
to give you $10 million. Okay. They can do that, but if they only have $50 million total, you just spent a fifth of it on one guy.
Yeah.
Now the rest of your program gets X amount, not just and let's listen, we're not just talking about football either. We're talking about all the other programs too.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have $50 million that you can spend, whatever it is, listen, we'll do the finances on it, whatever, adjust it, make sure we'll look at all the spreadsheets and do all the financial analysts to figure out what that amount
Mhm.
is. But let's come up with an amount and let's cap what the schools can give. Now, Bryce Underwood can then sit there and say, Nike's going to let me do commercials and they're going to pay me to do commercials. Viore is going to pay Arch Manning to do commercials and all this. Fine. Do all that all you want. I go back to Michael Jordan in the 90s when he was with the Bulls. He was the third highest paid player on the team. And the reason why he was said, look at, don't necessarily give me all the money. I know that we need to pay other players. I know that I can go out and I can get money off of sponsorships.
Mhm.
So he was the third highest paid player on his team, and he
Yeah.
was the best player ever to live. But he was smart enough to know I can make money from Nike and Gatorade and all these other places, and stuff like
Right.
that.
Because
So
like in the grand scheme of things, he was making the most money, but he did it in a way that helped everybody because Jordan was the epitome of like a team player. Like.
yeah, and so what it comes down to is a guy a guy like Bryce Underwood can make the same amount of money at Michigan as he can at Western Michigan
Mhm. Yeah.
because it's the same level playing field, right? So that fixes that issue. Everybody talks about, oh, Ohio State last year, they had the highest payroll in football and everything else and stuff like that. The majority of their payroll was just keeping players.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, they went out and got Will Howard, they went out and got Caleb Downs and Judkins, but they spent the majority of their money on guys that were already on the team to keep them from going to other schools. And
Well,
that's what
yeah,
you run into.
and also, I mean, while you mentioned that too, you talked about like, $10 million roster and all this other kind of stuff. Yes, they went out of their way to be able to get some guys that were going to help shape the team. But do you get like that roster was still full of like juniors were starting, sophomores were starting. They had a couple seniors out there. Like they still were letting guys who had been there the whole time play. They just had the money that they needed to get those extra
They
guys who to
they
put
kept
themselves in a
those guys.
better situation that helped them get drafted.
Yeah, like a Jack Sawyer that was a fourth year senior.
Yeah.
They paid him
Hmm.
so that
To
he
keep them.
he wasn't lured away from another school by that was offering him money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So and again, look, if there's a cap, then everybody's playing in the same thing,
Hmm.
right? Like because we all know who has the most money, right? Like Michigan has the most donor money that there is.
Hmm.
They're the richest university that there is in the country. Notre Dame's an extremely wealthy university. Texas is extremely wealthy with their donor money and everything else. You got all these different USC. Um, you know, so what we're doing is we're leveling the playing fields. The Iowa States can now compete because we're all operating on the same amount of money, and we're telling these kids, look, yes, we're going to offer you $3 million to be our quarterback, and they're going to offer you five, but we have an extra $2 million to get you a receiver to throw to,
Hmm.
and they don't. And if you want to make more than $3 million a year, then we have people in our university that are willing to contact Nike and Under Armour and try to get you deals.
Right. Yep.
Now we're all even.
Hmm.
And we're not talking about this, oh, the NIL, and now that the NIL, now it's legal, the SEC,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. So those are the four areas where there's a big issue in college football because it's completely changed and it's just a disaster at this point in time. And it's such a good product on the field that all this other nonsense around it, ruining it, is frustrating as hell. If we can fix the playoff system, if we can fix the NIL, if we can fix the transfer portal, and we can fix when the coaches are leaving, why can't why, if we can do it to where it makes sense, why wouldn't we do it?
Right. But and that's like the biggest thing. Like why you're right. Why wouldn't we if it makes sense? And you would think, right? But we've been doing everything that doesn't make sense. So something's got to give at some point. I think enough people are complaining about it, like you said, right? Like we had a whole video where we complained, right? You got enough complaints, you don't have enough solutions. That's the problem. So yeah, these are some things that would make the situation so much similar. It would make things or so much easier. And I hope that some higher ups that have a bigger platform end up saying a lot of the same stuff we're saying because so far none of them have because you got idiots like Joel Klatt who are enabling the bullshit because he's an idiot, right? So we need
And I
people
saw
to.
Emmanuel Acho out there and everything
Manuel
else,
Acho is
and
also the worst at him and Joel
which is
Klatt.
unbelievable, which is unbelievable to me too, because Sam Acho, his brother, is probably one of the best that there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
So it's funny that
I
that
think
household,
Emmanuel I think
you know,
Emmanuel Acho and Joel Klatt are neck and neck for two
yeah.
dumbest people with a platform on the history of the earth, but it's neither here nor there, folks.
But again, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, I mean, it's simple, like KISS. Like when
Mm-hmm.
in business, we always talk about KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what we do, right? So why are and again, and we all know it's money. It's where's the money
Of
going to be
course.
shifted
Of
and where's
course.
the money going to go and everything else. And we all know this whole thing about ESPN, like and they control the ACC, and the ACC played almost like a 48 hours of a Christmas story. They played over and over and over again the
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame Miami game, pushing for Miami to get in, and it was like, what are you talking about? You have a deal with Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has the NBC deal, and ESPN doesn't like that. And they're like, we're going to force you into us so we can control all your money and everything else and all that other kind of stuff. But again, because we know that that's how all of that works with
Yep.
the money and stuff like that. But if you create a logical enough system that allows for everybody to get their piece of the pie, why wouldn't you do it?
I don't have the answer as to why it just doesn't make any sense.
So I mean, I think this could be fixed, and it could be fixed rather quickly
It
because
could
we're
be.
already almost there. Like I said, 16, 16, 17, and 18 is where we're at. Let's just do 16. Two Big Ten teams, you're gone. Who are the two Big Ten teams that are gone? Rutgers.
I would probably say yeah, Rutgers in Maryland even.
Could be, or there's another school somewhere else, like in the Big 12 or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati moves down. You move Rutgers over to where Cincinnati is.
Yeah.
So, like, you can shift stuff around. There's there's 16. You can come up with 16, and you're probably expanding it a little bit more than you should at 16 in each one because you're at 16 in two of them already, and then you got
Mm-hmm.
18 and 17. So you only really need to move three of all of those teams down into the FCS
Mm-hmm.
or into the next level or
Yeah.
whatever. And then you've got your American, you've got your Mountain West, you've got your MAC. Those teams running the same type of system are having a playoff that would be awesome to
Yeah,
watch.
and so and right, like so you can do it however you want to do it, right? So you can name them by their conference name still. You can name them by their, where they're at, east, west, north, south, southeast, whatever you want to do. You can name them that way. You know, like I'm about to sneeze. Please hold.
Here it is. You got a good one coming. Clear it out. You got to
It
clear it out.
disappeared. It disappeared. When you announce that you're gonna sneeze,
Yeah.
it gets shy and it goes away. Because like like you got your NFC North, your NFC South, NFC West, like so you can do that, right? You could just do your BCS North, BCS South, BCS East. Like you could literally, I mean, just mimic the NFL. Literally, just copy and paste the NFL, quite literally, but for different tiers. Because then
Mhm.
you've got your FCS North, FCS West, FCS whatever, right? Like it's quite literally like what's that book? Something 101 for dummies or whatever. Like that's like quite literally
Yeah,
what this is. I mean,
yeah,
like it really
yeah.
is such a simple concept, and it's actually kind of mind-boggling that something like this isn't in place.
And because think about it, we do this is what we do in high school.
Right.
And it
So
makes sense.
why do we think that a human first of all, where do they even get the people from the committee? Where do they find what makes these people
Oh,
so
have you seen when they panned around the room and you're looking at this group of
yeah,
people and you're like,
yeah,
what the hell
yeah.
are we
Like this
looking at?
is yeah. This is what we're relying
Listen,
on.
I mean, you can't judge people on appearances, but you can judge people on appearances.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at this like, well, you got to be kidding. And whoever the spokesperson dude is that's been coming out and talking and stuff like that, like, dude,
He
you're
has
talking
no
out of your
idea.
ass. Like, you're doing everything you can to justify what you did, knowing full well that you did wrong.
Right.
That you screwed teams, and you're trying to sit there and talk and spin words and act like you didn't do it. Vandy got screwed. BYU got screwed. You moved things. You pulled the rug out. You changed things at the final minute that and you changed the rules that you were putting out to everybody and everything else like that and oh well the conference games have to matter, that's why BYU can't be in it. Oh really? Because Alabama got trucked, and they got
Absolutely.
trucked in week 1 because week 1 matters because and Notre Dame lost to Miami in week 1, but
Hmm.
Alabama got trucked by 14 to Florida State 5-7, and Notre Dame lost by 3 to Miami 10-2. So it mattered. That game mattered, but the Alabama Florida State game didn't matter in week 1. You know what I mean? Like it's the stupid. And here's the other part about it too. Again, this is what I talk about because again, if Texas would have scheduled Kennesaw State instead of
Week
Ohio State,
one,
they'd be
yeah.
in the playoff. If
Right.
Notre Dame would have scheduled Old Dominion instead of
Hmm.
Texas A&M, they'd
They'd
be
be
in
in
the
the
playoff.
playoff. Right.
But to
So
me,
why are
a
you
one
punishing
point
teams?
loss
Yeah.
or a 3-point loss to Miami, to me,
But
is a
then
better than a 40-point win to Old Dominion.
but then in the same breath people want to turn around and say, "Well, their schedule's not hard."
Well, yeah, that's just
So
stupid
so how are
because
you going to sit there and be like,
they schedule more Power Four teams. Now it's not their fault that the Power Four teams are garbage because
yeah.
the schedules are 3 years in advance. But they schedule more Power Four teams. Like you talk about it, they scheduled 10 Power Four teams.
Next season they've got 4 Big 10 and 6 ACC and then
Right,
they've got their game with Navy that they play every single season. So there's 11 games right there. So that leaves them one game to schedule some stupid cheapy school, and that's Rice.
right.
So aside from Rice, 4 Big 10, 6 ACC, join a conference. They're playing 2 of them. And then Navy, which they play every year.
But yet Indiana was in a conference and played one of the worst schedules that there was. Scheduled Kennesaw State, Indiana State, and Old Dominion, and didn't play Ohio State, Michigan, or USC.
Mm-hmm. So everybody wants to talk about Notre Dame and oh well, their strength of schedule and all this other kind of stuff and like yeah, there are only 2 games that mattered. They lost and but then if they would have
It's
scheduled but if they wouldn't have scheduled the 2 games that mattered and went 12-0, they'd be in the playoff and they'd be a 1, 2, or 3 seed and everybody would be like, oh, they're good. It doesn't make any sense to
it's
me.
just the anti Notre Dame bias and hate because and this is the exact same thing as to read their you want to talk about, oh, just join a conference. You want to know the reason why they're not in a conference? The reason why they're not in a conference is because Michigan voted them to not be in a conference. They tried to join the Big Ten.
They
And
did and they
Fielding
got denied.
Yost, the racist bastard that he was, said, no, we don't want Irish Catholics in our conference.
Yeah.
So let's just all remember that. Okay. So you want to talk about why they're not in a conference? That's why. That's exactly why they're not in a conference. And the only teams that would play them were Army, Navy, Southern Cal, in those schools.
Mhm. So once again,
Michigan State,
everybody.
because Michigan State had to apply twice to get into the Big Ten for the same reasons.
So everybody that sits
So,
there talking about Notre Dame join a conference or strength of schedule next year, they play four Big Ten, six ACC. Their game with Navy that's every year. So their one game that every other university in the history of the world gets to schedule a lesser than team is Rice, right? They start the season Wisconsin. All right, no, and we mentioned this in the last video too. Join a conference, join a conference. It's not going to make their schedule harder because they're playing four Big Ten and six ACC, and they're
right.
Wisconsin,
Hey,
Michigan State, USC is their hardest one, and then their other Big Ten is like Maryland or something.
yeah.
And then they've got Syracuse, Stanford, which they play every year anyway. The Stanford just joined the ACC, but they play them every year anyway. So if anything, it worked out in their favor, were what your people are asking, because they play Stanford. They've played Stanford every year for the last 100 years. Stanford joined the
Here's the
ACC.
question I want to ask you. Here's the question I want to ask you. Okay, so let's say, let's just say, let's just say that Notre Dame was in the ACC this year. Okay, so
Yeah.
they already play six ACC teams.
Hmm.
So you just have to take one of those games and replace one of those games with an ACC team, right?
So instead of six, they'd play seven. So basically,
So
you just have
you
to take.
so you replace Texas A&M with say SMU.
Mm,
Let's say
they're
they
in.
lost to SMU. And I'm just
Oh,
saying
okay.
SMU
Oh,
for a reason here.
yeah.
Let's
Okay.
say they lost to SMU. Would they then be worthy of being in the playoff? Because it's the same record.
And they're in a
It's the
conference,
same losses to the same type of teams.
but they're in a conference.
And
They're in a conference, and they're in a
Miami lost to
conference
SMU and they're in, but losing to Texas A&M, that they're not in a conference, so that loss to Texas A&M is way worse than a loss to SMU.
because they're not
See
in a
how
conference.
stupid it
And
is?
then I saw Stephen A. Smith too was being dumb about it too, and
Well, he's an idiot
he
anyway.
was like, well, you want to sit there and complain and da 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 da, and you're in, and well, all these, the reason Alabama's in over you is because they're playing a game while you're sitting at home. That might have
But
been
they
the most
lost
ass.
that game.
That might have
They
been the
got
most
blown
asinine
out.
thing. That might have been the most asinine thing I
Yeah.
heard. As if
And
ninety
and
percent of the college football playoff bracket wasn't sitting at home during
and
conference
so
championship weekend.
and here's the silliest part about that comment, right? That comment basically makes the argument for not being in a conference. Because if you get to sit at home, you have a better chance of making the playoff than if you have to play that game, right?
Oregon, A&M, Miami,
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, Oklahoma. I mean, it's asinine. It's just it really it's so
And
asinine.
Oregon and by far Oregon's coming out. Oregon is the Ohio State of last year.
Yeah, they got a smooth
They
ride.
got that 5 spot. They got the home game. They got a team that didn't
Well, Ohio
belong in the
State was an
playoff.
8 seed last year, but
What's that?
Ohio State was an
Oh,
8
they
seed.
were an 8 seed.
But still, they I
Oh,
mean,
that's right. Penn State was the
Penn
five
State
seed.
was the five, and they got an easy road, but they're Penn State.
But they're Penn State, right? But anyway, but look at Oregon. Look at what Oregon's doing, right? Like they got their bye. Their bye was championship week, right?
Yeah,
So they got their bye, and then now their
they
first
essentially
game
get two
is at
buys,
home against James Madison,
which is
which is
essentially a bye.
essentially a tune-up. Your starters are going to sit in the second half,
Yeah.
and then
So you're
now you're
basically
ready to
just getting
go.
warmed up. You're getting your guys warmed up,
Now
ready to
you're
go
playing a
to
team that's
practice.
rusty, that's been sitting.
Hmm.
It's like listen, I'm going to tell you
Oregon's in the
what.
best spot.
And Oregon won the Big Ten last year, right?
Yeah, and then they got destroyed by us in the
How
Rose
happy
Bowl.
are they about that Big Ten championship?
Yeah.
If they win the national championship this year, don't you think that they're going to enjoy that national championship a little bit more than that stupid Big Ten championship
Like
they got
last
last
year.
year
Like
that meant
last year.
nothing?
Like last year for us.
Right.
We didn't go to the Big Ten championship, and we ran it. I almost forget who was even in the Big Ten championship
It
last
was
year
Oregon,
sometimes.
Penn State.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes I
Yeah.
like it's I have to really sit and be
Oh,
like,
I
wait,
had
who
to look
was
it up
it?
today to because I didn't remember if Penn State won or not.
Because nobody cares because it
Right.
means absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Is
Exactly.
if Georgia loses in the first round
Exactly.
of the playoff, is anybody going to talk about the fact that they won the SEC championship? No,
Nobody cares.
nobody
Nobody
cares.
cares.
If
If
Texas
you
Tech
don't
loses
win,
in the first round,
if
is
you
anyone
don't
going to
win the
care?
national championship, you winning your conference means absolutely nothing.
If you don't, in today's day and age of college football, if you don't win the national championship, your bowl game doesn't matter, your rivalry games don't matter, and your conference championship games don't matter. Just like in the NFL. Just like in the NFL, winning your division doesn't matter if you don't win the Super Bowl. Beating the Packers
Lions
twice
last
a year,
year, best
I
record,
don't care. We had the
best
best
record.
record.
Who
We had
cares?
the number one seed in the
We
NFC,
won the
best
division.
record,
Who
won the
cares?
division. It doesn't mean anything because you know why? In 5 years from now, nobody's going to talk about. Remember when the Lions won the
Yeah.
NFC North that one year? No,
So
no,
what?
nobody's
How
going to
many
talk about
Super
it.
Bowls do you have?
Exactly. Exactly. And college
Dumb.
football with this format, that's what it's going to be. And if we're going to
And
be like that, then this is why we're implementing this idea.
right.
If that's what we're going to be. Because
Because
if you want,
the championship games don't matter.
they
Nobody
don't.
cares.
They don't. And for anybody to
Nobody
sit there,
cares.
and that's why it's like, okay, conference championship games only matter if you're Notre Dame and you're not in a conference. That's the only time it matters to people.
Right.
That's the
Yes,
only time
it's
it
true.
matters is if you're Notre
It's
Dame.
true. It's
Because it
true.
didn't matter for Alabama. It didn't matter for, you know, BYU. Well, actually, it did matter, but it mattered negatively for BYU.
Right.
So it's like
If they hadn't have played that game,
they'd
they
be
would
in.
have had a better chance of
They'd
being
be in because
ranked above Miami. If
they'd
they
be
would have
in.
been able to see, here's the other part about it too that people are talking about. Oh, join your conference. Listen, Miami sat home, didn't win their conference. The ACC, which is terrible, BYU went and played, got a second loss, had the same record as and then Miami was elevated over two teams by staying home.
Mm,
That's that's what the committee tells you is the importance on a conference championship. That's the importance that they're putting on these championship games.
mm.
If you stay home and do nothing, then you are going to be elevated over two teams, possibly three because of Vanderbilt, just by staying home.
Yeah.
It's dumb to have these games because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Oregon right now, they could give two shits about the Big Ten championship they had last year.
Yeah.
They're sitting at 5 with the best path to a championship this year. And if they win the national championship, they'll take this year over last year 1,000 times
Yep.
over. And
Yep.
anybody would,
Hmm.
which then again says the conference championship is the stupidest thing that we have right now.
Yeah.
Dumb. So get rid of it. 4 quadrants, 4 divisions, whatever. Boom. 1 through 4 to the 8. Boom. Play it.
Pick up your mic and drop it. I mean, I don't have anything else. You got anything else? I don't got anything else.
I got nothing.
There you have it, folks.
Catch you on the flippy flip.